Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. It is Monday, November 15th, 2021, and we will have our friend Dave Sharapan, former oddsmaker, join us in just a moment to look back at Week 10 in the NFL. And again, you think you know everything, then you don't know anything when you watch this league. But we'll talk about that. Also look ahead to Monday's NBA slate as well. But before we get to Dave, we want to tell you all about BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. And if you are a new customer, bet $10 to win $200 if your team scores a touchdown. Bet on any NFL money line. And if your team scores a touchdown, you'll receive an additional $200 in free bets. And it is legal in the following states: Arizona, New Jersey, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. only. Must be 21 years or older. Full terms and conditions apply. That is BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. So now we bring on our friend, our mismatched friend, Dave Sharapan, who has his voice back today. But I get it. You got to wear the Lions hat and the Steelers jersey because of what happened. Dave, how do you explain what happened at Heinz Field on Sunday?
Undercashed. That's the first thing you explain. If you had the under, they could play another quarter at least, Kevin, and you don't got to worry about it going over the total. I can't explain it. You get Ben out the night before, okay? So the number has to adjust. I thought the number was high all week. I thought it was way too high. Watching the Steelers offense is like going back in time. It's run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. You got a quarterback at the end of his career, can't throw deep, and it shows. So defenses have taken, measures to make sure that it's going to take a lot of plays, long drives to beat them. So you you make them over a touchdown favorite to begin with. That's hard to believe. Then you don't adjust the number like you don't have to, because there's not that big of a difference between Ben Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph. Wow. Father Time catches up with everybody. So, I was out Saturday night with the wife and kids and enjoying a post-game meal from softball, and my phone was blowing up. Like, what do you make the number? I would have made it lower. I would have made it 4, 3.5 or 4 even. And I was wrong. Nobody knows squadoosh. I say it all the time. They said, you're light. I was like, I'm light? I don't know. I mean, has Mason taken a rep all week? That's what goes into my mind when you get these backup quarterbacks thrown in there. Or, like we'll get to later, like, Russell Wilson hasn't touched a ball in a game situation in a long time. Throw him in there, and, in a cold weather. You're down in Florida. I'm out in Vegas. Like, it don't get cold. It gets chilly, but it don't get cold. It's hard to get the motor running anymore, as you get older in the cold and coming back from injury. It's not easy, man. It's not easy.
What are your thoughts on this? That we find out Saturday that Ben Roethlisberger, he tests positive for COVID. Do you think that this is going to continue as we get towards the playoffs, having these tests? Like, what if you had a situation, Patrick Mahomes tests positive, or, someone else that tests positive that's an important player? What do you do with that if you're the NFL in a really important spot?
It's really hard. And, this was chaos last year. This was, even in, when we came back from COVID right away, kind of just threw games together. We were at neutral sites. There were no fans in there. Just get the games going. Like booking the stuff was hard. And, I'm out of the actual risk rooms and stuff, but I'm still constantly thinking like that. And as far as the NFL goes, like, you got to know earlier. Like, just get it done earlier. So at least everybody's on the same plane by what? Friday? They've kind of made a mockery of the injury report as it is. Maybe we're due for a COVID report due by Friday. If you test positive, you're out. If you don't, you can play. It's so hard because it affects other people in the room as far as the locker room. And other, because if he tests positive and he's didn't, and what's going to happen? So, anything that takes away from the play on the field and the games itself, I just don't like it. It's frustrating as a fan, as a someone who's trying to book the games or bet on the games. Makes it very hard. And it certainly doesn't make me want to rush to go put in an early bet in the beginning of the week because the number's good. Because that number may not be so good if somebody tests positive. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes tests positive and is out for a playoff game, I think it's a nightmare scenario for the NFL.
Now, even though, Dave, this wasn't the same thing as far as COVID, what did you make of this with the Panthers and the Cardinals, that Arizona was laying 10 the whole week? Kyler Murray, you thought maybe he'd come back and play. And then at the end, he's not going to play today against Carolina. And then it turns out Cam Newton, he probably won't play until next week. He's in. He has 2 touchdowns. And Carolina pretty much rolled Arizona. That situation with Kyler Murray, I thought was a little frustrating. I didn't have the game. But on the flip side with Cam Newton, I'm not a huge Cam fan, but good for him as far as him trying to, make this like a reclamation project, going back to the place that he won an MVP.
Oh, yeah. I'm a fan of Cam just because of his hats and the way he shows up at the game. I put out a few tweets where it's me wearing a nice hat and him wearing a nice hat, and who wears it better. Cam wore it yesterday. That was really impressive to me. And I'm going to probably put out some more tweets today. I don't know about so much on the field. Like, what does that mean? Does that make Carolina a playoff team because Cam's back? No, it's not that big of an adjustment in the number. Makes them better, but at least it stops them from turning the ball over with Sam Darnold, and it stops them from putting behind the 8 ball. So they're probably a better team. I don't know how much it affects the number. How much is he worth? How much is he worth? I don't know, a point or two. The Kyler Murray thing is frustrating for bettors, but you had to know, like, he was probably more unlikely to play than play. Guy is so dynamic when he's healthy. But this happens. This is a pattern. NFL guys get hit that run at playing quarterback position. They wear down. You have to tread very cautiously when you're laying points with these type of quarterbacks. And I mean, I thought the number again was too high at the beginning, but like, it's not hard. You got it all right there on the website. You talk about it on the show. Dogs are covering in the NFL this year. I mean, if you're laying more than a few points, it's really, really difficult. So I don't think you can say you were surprised and really have been paying attention. I mean, it was probably, I would have made it like 60-40, maybe even 65, close to 70-30 that he was not going to play versus that he was going to play. Because, why push it? We're looking long-term, blah, 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 blah. I mean, if he's dinged up, we can get by Carolina, right? Colt played great last week. We'll keep it the same. I don't know how many, again, to me, when you're handicapping these things with these quarterbacks, you got to know who's getting the reps during the week. I mean, that's what I tell the kids when we coach. Whoever gets the reps during the week is going to play on the weekends. We got the same situation. It's all the way down. If you don't practice, you don't play. And if you practice and you practice bad, you probably don't play. So we got to find out who's practicing. That's it. We go back to that Iverson quote. We talking about practice? In this situation, I am.
Well, Dave, the trapezoid play of the week came through the Washington football team as they go off the bye week. Tampa Bay was also off the bye, but the Buccaneers now, Dave, 0-5 against the spread on the road. There are 2 teams in the NFL that have not covered a road game, the Bucs and the Jets. Those are 2 teams not in the same class. But Tampa Bay, kind of perplexing result yesterday. Brady didn't play that well. Washington, they lose Chase Young potentially for a while. But what do you think about how this one unfolded with Washington, who was 0-4 straight up and against the spread their previous 4 games?
Just when you think you got it figured out, Kev, you don't. That's it, right? I mean, nobody knows. Excuse me. Nobody knows Squadoosh. But again, sometimes we got the numbers right in front of us, right? As bettors, Tampa can't win a road game. They can't cover a road game. Oh, so they're going to cover a big number again? No, they're not. Until they do, I think you go on those streaks. Like those, that's no accident. I don't think it's going to go 0-8. But, okay, so you're going to bet that streak's going to end this game? I'd rather just like baseball betting, bet the streak to continue until it doesn't. Then you're wrong once and then find a new one. Trying to pick when that one's going to end, it leads to usually bad results betting wise. Tampa, if you remember last season, this same thing kind of happened, right? Started out a little rough, got okay a little bit for a couple weeks, and then they went through that little bit of a stage before the final, like 4 or 5 games, where, Arians was kind of calling out Brady. Brady's like, we can't figure out the offense. We don't know who's playing, who's not. They haven't been full. They haven't been full roster since the beginning of the season. When they're full, they're still the favorite to win the NFC, along with Green Bay. I think Green Bay is the best team in the league. And with everything going on, whether it's the last dance or not, Rodgers got him playing. I mean, he's playing. The injury to their running back yesterday, that we'll see what that comes into play. But Tampa's still right there. Everybody, it's a week-to-week league. Washington proved it off a bye. They come back and win. Chase Young got hurt. He's probably out. I don't know what that means for Washington going forward. But, man, a football team with an impressive effort. They had I think I read 19-play drive that consumed 10 minutes of clock. Like, at the end of the game, you can't get off the field. Keep that one in the back pocket for going forward for Tampa. They got to figure that out.
Now, speaking of the Packers, they beat Seattle at Lambeau, 17-0, a 3-0 game at the half. I thought that the Seahawks blew it on several occasions, Dave, that I don't know why they didn't try a field goal before that play that resulted in a holding. All of a sudden, now you're backed up. You were in field goal range. You're backed up now, and Russell throws an incomplete pass at the end of the half. And then in the second half, Russell throws that bad throw in the end zone, gets picked off. Packers did enough to win behind Aaron Rodgers, and he's back after what happened last week. So, and you mentioned earlier with Russell Wilson that he's maybe just not right. They covered 3 straight with Geno Smith, and now they're 0-1 ATS with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? Like, I think a lot of people betting-wise, just in the league-wise, are probably rooting against Green Bay. And Rodgers has kind of turned heel, which is kind of interesting, but it's also fun. What also is fun is betting the under in the Packers games with that defense. Like, they're playing some serious defense. This is really impressive to me. I mean, the running game is quiet, a little bit like Dylan is okay and, putting those games away, getting those first downs. Who wants to tackle that guy in the cold in the fourth quarter? Seattle, I don't know what to make of them. I was watching the game without sound. So it's a unique way to watch it. And this is the way I watch it a lot of times in the risk room, because you have so many games on that, we would argue about which game would get sound, and then somebody would make a decision. And it was usually a game that nobody wanted to watch because it's just kind of background noise for what you're doing, watching games. And, like I was doing the in-game. So I didn't want to get, tainted in my thoughts or anything that was being said. I don't know what those 2 plays were, but they cost Seattle to cover the game, all those things. Green Bay's the number 1 seed for a reason. That's what I was left with from this. They beat Arizona head-to-head. They are playing for that bye already right now because their division is done.
Now, the Sunday night game in your backyard, Chiefs just demolished the Raiders. 41-14. Kansas City can't cover a game, all this other nonsense. And Patrick Mahomes looked like Patrick Mahomes on Sunday night. And the Chiefs, look, last year, Dave, 2 games against the Raiders, they didn't cover. They could have lost both of them. They were laying 8, lost at Arrowhead, laying 7.5 at Vegas, barely won. This time laying 2.5, 3. Easy streak for the Chiefs.
Chiefs are getting right, K-Raj. They're getting right. You can see it. Little turmoil. Teams all go through this, and sometimes the first time, like when they go that 14-2 run, which is now 17 games, so that number will never exist again. But when you have a season like that, or 13-3, not too many things go wrong. Chiefs had some adversity last couple weeks, and they continue to be favored. Road, home, win the week before, favored, lose the week before, bigger favorite, don't cover. Got them at a discounted price at 2.5. The Raiders defense, man, they're prone to that big play. Mahomes is dishing the ball all over the place now. Everybody's involved again. Man, Kelsey's so good when he's right. Tyreek Hill, oh yeah. Man, if they run the ball, keep plays alive. He's making those plays where he's going this way and he's throwing it that way. I don't know, man. I mean, if you had to ask me who's going to win that division now, last week I said, I thought the Chargers. Now, it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs are winning that division. I think Denver showed who they were. They're still a mess. The Raiders got a lot of work to do defensively. And the Chargers, what was that?
Let's go to that one then, Dave. So the Chargers are, I think, reverting back to the Anthony Lynn Chargers that you don't know what you're going to get from them every single week. And I got to give credit to Minnesota here because they've had a lot of tough losses this year. They dropped the Baltimore game. They lose the Arizona game. They had the Cincinnati game even in week 1. They had the ball in overtime and lost. But going out to L.A., that's a really good win for the Vikings, who are not going to win the NFC North. We know that. They're still trying to get a wild card spot, but the Chargers are in the mix. And you know what? There's about 12 teams that could be in the playoffs in the AFC. The Chargers are one of them, but losing these games, this is not helping their cause.
No, it's not. The Vikings keep showing up, right? That number, that was a bad guy play. They were all over the Vikings in that one. And it made sense. Another one where I think sometimes, you look at a number and you go, wow, is that enough? Either way, right? Am I getting enough here with Minnesota, or wow, should I be laying more with the Chargers? It's a young coach, young quarterback. I think you see the ups and downs with the Chargers. What you see with the Vikings is they keep coming. They have had opportunities to win games that haven't gone their way. Call them coin flip games where it comes down to the end and they lose the coin flip. Okay. But I mean, for the one they lost, they've had some other things happen. I think they're live to continue this little whatever. They can put together 3 or 4 in a row. I mean, this week they got Green Bay at home. They're home dogs. Rightly so. Who's going to, not bet Green Bay getting points? But the number's interesting. The game's interesting. It's going to be an early start in Minnesota. I think the Vikings are a team that's probably going to be a bet on more than a bet against the rest of the season.
Now, the other team in the AFC West, Dave, the Broncos. And finally, the money to the Eagles was right this week. It took all this time, Dave, but finally it was right. I really felt that after Denver obliterated Dallas last week, there is no way this team is going to play that well again. And the Eagles, they won at Atlanta. They won at Carolina. They're better on the road than at home. These are kind of even teams. I thought that was the right side with the Eagles.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because, like, I do the podcast every week, Cash Considerations, with a kid who's, season ticket holder in Philly. And the mentality of Eagles backers, fans, and everything back there is that it's not right. Like, it's just something's not right. Like, this team, whether it's offensively, defensively, it's just very something isn't right. Well, they get right yesterday. I mean, that was an impressive game. They maybe do play better on the road now that you said that. I took more away from not what the Eagles did, but what Denver did. Teddy justified the business decision on that play. I saw it. I was like, wow, I don't want to make nowhere near a tackle. Okay. The game was over right there for me. I was like, they're done. That's it. It's over. I think Denver is going to be one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams, right? They're going to finish 8-9, 9-8, not really a threat for a playoff spot. Have a couple more wins they're probably not supposed to have, and they're going to have a couple more duds when they're at home in Mile High, where it's so hard to go and win, and they lose the game. So, Denver's a complete. What did my one buddy say who's a Denver Bronco fan? Between them and Minnesota, the most bipolar teams in the NFL.
Now, the Eagles play the Saints next week at home. New Orleans, They snuck through the back door yesterday, Dave. Almost, we avoided overtime in that one. We didn't need a 2-point conversion and then something silly to happen in overtime. But this Tennessee team, though, with what they have done, that they were destroyed by Arizona in week 1. They have a perplexing loss to the Jets in overtime. But all those underdog wins, they didn't cover on Sunday, but they still end up hanging on to beat New Orleans. Derrick Henry's not even playing. That's a great job by Tennessee that they just keep winning. Like every time you think that they're going to have a flat spot, they haven't had that.
Yeah. It's veterans and coaching, like, right? You got to give Vrabel credit. They find ways to win games when things aren't going their way. But like a couple of those calls yesterday, Kevin, wow. Like, they got a couple calls to go their way, like that roughing the passer. I just, I don't bash coaches. I don't bash officials. You just kind of say what's the truth. That's kind of what I do. It was a bad call, man. Like, there's too many flags in the NFL. There's just too many. I'm tempted at this point to say, let's go back to the 70s. Let's just let them play. Mug wide receivers down the field. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but like that guy touched them. It kept the drive alive. It cost them. I don't know if it cost them the game, but it affected the game. So, you see Peyton's post-game press conference, and he can't have an opinion. Well, luckily you and I can, sitting here and having it. It's one of those ones that you're just like, man, I don't know. And it's hard to believe that so many millions of dollars in this part of the business swing on those decisions. I'm impressed with the Titans. Can't sleep on those Saints. Looks like defensively they're right there. They're just offensively just a little bit lacking. Maybe with more reps he'll get there. The Jameis injury was huge for them because I think they were going to make the playoffs for sure. Now, not so sure.
I know you're joking about the whole like be like the 70s. You would think it's Jack Tatum hitting Lynn Swann over the middle, clubbing him in the head. I get that, but you're barely touching these guys. It's not like saying, we got to make these guys tougher. You're not even touching them in most occasions. Or when you rough a passer, it goes back to that Dolphins-Patriots game in week 1. You're tackling the guy. Aren't you asked to tackle him and you're still roughing him? That's where you're kind of like, what is this at this point?
Yeah. No cheap shots. We got to keep it clean. But you got to make it. Listen, I don't like bashing soccer, but you see a lot of like diving. You see a lot of guys that look like, oh no, he may never get up. Oh, it's a yellow card, and he jumps right up and throws the ball in. Like, you can't if it's legit. And now we're going to ask these guys that are like as old as me or older to make calls at lightning speed. It's impossible. So I don't know specifically what the answer is, but I know what I'm watching, and I love football. I love sports. Just take it out of the game a little bit, like out of their hands, and let the players play. I mean, I think if you'd have said, hey, you get together in that huddle and go, man, he barely touched him. Pick that flag up. Ain't nobody going to say nothing. All right, are you sure? Yeah, well, they're gonna ding me a couple points. I may not get to do a playoff game because I threw a flag and it's not. Get the call right. Everybody's worried about, what are they going to say about this? What are they going to say about it? If you get the call right, somebody's going to be mad, but at least most people are going to be like, okay with it. Now you're looking at that. You're going, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to make in-game wagers. It's hard to do in-game numbers. You got to pause that thing and like go, okay, close it because I don't know which way they're going to roll it. I thought I knew the number. Well, no, I don't. Oh, no, they're going to call that a flag? That's a flag? All right, so move it up. Don't. It's really, really, I think it takes away from the game. And anything that takes away from the game, Kevin, I don't like.
Now let's look at tonight's action, Dave. Rams and Niners out in Santa Clara, and San Francisco with no home field advantage whatsoever. They're 0-4 at home. But first time, though, they're an underdog this year at home. And you get the Rams, who I don't want to go to they're like a traveling circus now. They get Odell Beckham, and they're coming off a really bad performance against Tennessee last week. Niners have beaten them 4 straight. So keep that in mind. But what are your thoughts here with this game? LA, obviously a public favorite against San Francisco.
Oh, you'll hear it all day, Kevin. This is the pros versus Joes, the squares versus the sharps, the parallelograms versus the rhombuses. I mean, it's all of it. But sometimes like that heavy bet side gets there. You want the Niners, you could take them. I think the books did a great job with the number. You put it at 4, let them bet, the bad guys and the quote unquote wannabe wise guys. They're all taking the Niners and the number. Okay, that's great because ain't no one else betting it. And this might end up being one of those 80-20s, close to 85-15 percentage-wise, betting on the Rams. I saw it in college all weekend. Like there was games where, 95% of the bets are on this one side. It gets there. Like, the books have the menu to keep getting back bets. Another good week overall in the NFL that I'm really worried about this one. I think the Rams win. Who wants the Niners at home, especially this season? Like you take those historical numbers. Yes, the Niners have the Rams number in recent history, but the teams are so different. I mean, and especially like OBJ's in town. Like, you don't think they've been working on stuff all week to get him the ball or, open things up for Kupp? The buried lead in this game is Robert Woods, got hurt apparently and isn't going to play. You still need a guy in the middle to take away or get those tough yards. Everybody's got one, a successful team. We'll see. We'll see how much OBJ gets the ball tonight. I'm looking forward to watching it actually a little bit. And I got a night off from practice and stuff like that. So I'll be watching football along with some basketball and some hockey, but I like the Rams.
All right. I got 2 college notes for you before I let you go. All right. What happened Saturday? What happened in Happy Valley? I was watching and I saw Penn State took the lead and all of a sudden I'm doing stuff and then Michigan takes the lead. I mean, you can't let Harbaugh get a big road win. Come on.
Yeah. So it's frustrating because they seem like they're right there. But then game script, this is a new term. I just, at 51, I learned something new. It's called game script. It's how the game plays out. Game script dictates they're leading. And then they just can't get off the field. Michigan puts together the drive, gets down there and scores. And now with Penn State's offense in the state that it's in, the challenge is getting points quick when you have to. It's just not there. And they lose the game. So Michigan keeps the dream alive, of getting to the NCAA playoff. Oh, yeah, it's annoying. Michigan is the one for me that I like to beat more than anybody, even Ohio State, even Michigan State and the land grant trophy and all that other stuff. The Michigan one is the one I wanted the most. I always did since the time that the Fab Five came to Penn State when I was in college. The first Big Ten season, I went to the game. They walked in with the baggy shorts and the black socks and talked to all of us. We went back and forth. By the end of the game, we were high-fiving and going, thanks, we all bet you. Actually, they were laying a short number on the road at Rec Hall, and we all won. So it's, I don't know what bowl game Penn State's headed for, but I can't wait to see Michigan play Ohio State. That's what I'm looking forward to right now.
My last college question for you, Dave. Does Steve Sarkisian get fired after this year with Texas? I mean, losing to Kansas on the road is one thing, but losing them in Austin as 30-plus point favorites, I feel like that Oklahoma game, it just all crashed after that they blew that game, and it's been a complete nightmare for them this whole season.
Yeah, is it horns up or horns down? I think
the SEC is saying, get out of here. You're going to the Sun Belt.
That's it. Like, what did we do? What did we do? We got Texas. I mean, do you have to look back at recent history? Texas has been living off of the past for a while. And they've had guys come in and like, all right, we're going to be the coach and we're going to get here. We're going to get there. And like, man, that was a rough one. Like Kansas, it's not basketball. It's football, bro. And like they lost outright as a gigantic favorite. It was exciting to see for Kansas just as a program. Like, has to be somebody. Why not be Texas? I mean, because really, who's rooting for Texas other than Texas people? That was one where I went to the Fiesta Bowl back in my college days. Penn State played Texas in the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona. It was a blast. We had so much fun back and forth with the fans. They're passionate. Those people come with it and bring it every day. But yikes. Again, not in the business of firing coaches, but that's a bad loss. I don't want to be in his seat right now having to go to the meeting on Monday. I think it's hard to go to the risk group after you blow 7 figures and you got to have the Monday meeting. What are we doing? Oh, he got to go in and say, he can't say anything. I lost to Kansas. Yikes.
That was pretty bad. And just seeing even Texas had a shot to win in overtime. Kansas like, you know what? We're going for 2. We're just trying to beat you here.
Fantastic call. That's the right call, though, right? Like, yeah. What are you going to do? Have another overtime? Like, no, we're here. We got one play. We got to get one play to win this thing. So, can only imagine how much fun it was for people. University of Kansas. I mean, I know a couple guys and traded them texts. Hey, congrats! And they're like, they were excited, but they're more excited about the basketball team and going forward what they got there this season. They got a really good basketball team, one of the favorites to win the whole thing. But yeah,
it's just so funny how it's, we had this big football upset. Who cares? Let's just move on to basketball. We don't even care. We're not going to a bowl game. We don't even care.
Hey, that's the way it is in some schools, Kevin. Yeah. We went to schools with football programs as well as multiple programs. Sometimes as an individual or a single sport school that you're known as, it's not that big a deal.
Dave Sharapan, you could find him on Twitter, Sportsbook Consigliere, SportsBKConsig. Dave, thank you so much for the time as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Excellent work, Kevin. We'll talk to you soon. I hope you saw the TikTok. I mean, I'm trying my best to keep up with the kids. I know you liked it. Yeah, you got the moves.
1 million views. That's what it is. Easy.
See you later.
I'll see it. Take it easy. There's Dave Sharapan. Always good talking to him. You had the Lions-Steelers combo today after the tie at Heinz Field. Even Detroit couldn't win that game. They had chances. They had that field goal in overtime. Everyone on social media was like, that's the worst kick I've ever seen on that level. Maybe at any level. It was terrible. But the Lions, they didn't lose. Also, they didn't win. But Pittsburgh, that's another time that Pittsburgh now is not covered as a favorite. And go back to last year, I think it's 0-8 or so, ATS, the last 8. They've been pretty bad covering numbers in that role. So they didn't cover against the Bears last week. They didn't cover against the Lions this week. So anytime Pittsburgh's a favorite, just tread lightly with them, and I think you'll be in good shape. We're going to get to the NBA coming up in just a second. But I want to tell you about WynnBET. And you can download the WynnBET mobile sportsbook app on iOS or Android devices. And when you download the WynnBET mobile sportsbook and you're a new patron, you can get a $1,000 risk-free first bet with a $20 minimum first deposit and eligible sports bet when you use the promo code VI bonus. That means if you lose your first wager, you get it back up to $1,000 as a free bet credit that you can use for another bet. The WynnBET promo code will expire soon, so make sure to grab it while you can, and must be 21 years or over or 20 years or older. And in legal betting states, that is the WynnBET mobile sportsbook app. All right, let's take a quick look at the NBA for tonight. I mean, there's a lot of college basketball, of course, a couple hockey games, but let's roll through these pretty quickly. And the Celtics face the Cavaliers in Cleveland. If you had Boston like I had the other night, it was a tough one because Boston, they've found ways this year to blow many leads. And for some reason, the Celtics just have some impressive wins. They had a good win against Milwaukee Friday night, but then they go to Cleveland, they're up 19, and they blow it to the Cavs. And the Cavs have been the best ATS team in the league this year. So Celtics, again, laying 2.5 against Cleveland. Jaylen Brown still out for Boston. But, I mean, Cleveland, it's hard to fade them at this point because they just keep covering numbers. The Kings and the Pistons in Detroit. Sacramento's lost a few in a row. Really no shocker after they had a decent start to the season, but now they're laying 4.5 at Detroit. Pistons coming off a win at Toronto on Saturday. They only have 3 victories in the season. After their first 2 wins, they were blown out in the next game, so keep that in mind. But that's a tough one, though. I don't want to trust Sacramento on the road, but also for Detroit, after they're coming off a really good performance, I don't know if I really want to trust them. The Pelicans and the Wizards in D.C. Bradley Beal's still out for Washington. We'll see when he comes back. Personal situation, but Washington, they've won 4 in a row. New Orleans coming off a rare win as they beat Memphis 2 nights ago, and a good job by them. They've covered a few in a row now, and Washington, they've been an excellent ATS team this year, but we'll see if that keeps up tonight, even with Bradley Beal not playing. This is interesting because the Hawks came back from that dreadful road trip in which they didn't win a game. They blow out Milwaukee last night, and now they're hosting Orlando on the second end of a back-to-back. Magic have had some moments on the road this year. They won at New York as a double-digit dog. They won at Minnesota, getting 9.5. So Orlando, now we'll see what they can do against this Atlanta team who, again, they beat Milwaukee in not only a spot that they needed to end their losing streak, but also in a revenge spot from the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So we'll see what Orlando does if they could maybe stay close against Atlanta here as heavy underdogs. Pacers face the Knicks in New York, and the Knicks have struggled of late. Pacers have played well, actually, and they did beat New York at home. Now we'll see what Indiana does here on the road. They've had some success on the road recently, but New York just trying to get their stuff together. And losing at Charlotte a few nights ago, losing to Milwaukee, it's been a tough little stretch for Tibbs. Nuggets and the Mavericks from Dallas, and Denver beat Dallas once already this season. Nuggets have played well of late on their most recent homestand. Dallas, they've beaten San Antonio a few times. They're already 3-0 against San Antonio this year. But Dallas has been all right under Jason Kidd. They had a bit of a sluggish start, losing that game at Atlanta right out of the gate, but they played well, and Mavericks are laying 4.5. Denver, again, they're coming off a really successful homestand. The Rockets and the Grizzlies, very interesting game because Memphis, they have not played well of late. Houston has been a decent double-digit dog as they are 4-1-1 against the spread when getting at least 10 this year. But we'll see if Memphis can get on track in this game. Memphis 4-7 their last 11 games. Suns and the Timberwolves from Minnesota, and the Wolves coming off a loss to the Clippers. Before that, they beat the Lakers, played pretty well in that one. Phoenix off a blowout of the Rockets last night. Suns have been very good after a bit of a slow start this season. Short number there for Phoenix to lay. The Heat laying 8.5 at Oklahoma City. Continuing this road trip, they just held off Utah a few nights ago, and the Heat had some struggles losing to the Clippers, losing to the Nuggets, losing to the Lakers. So they got a much-needed win over Utah. Now they're laying 8.5 against Oklahoma City, who has actually been pretty decent this season, considering their expectations were very, very low. But Oklahoma City, keep an eye out on them as a live dog. Raptors and Blazers in Portland. Damian Lillard's a question mark. He missed the Denver game, and Portland got blown out there. Toronto, they got off to a slow start too, but they played better since then. And again, the Lillard news pretty much something I keep an eye on today. Finally, Bulls and Lakers from LA. Bulls beat the Clippers last night, so now they remain at Staples Center. And the Lakers off a win over the Spurs yesterday. They played in the matinee. The Lakers and Spurs, and the Bulls-Clippers was the night game. So the Lakers, they bounced back from the Minnesota loss. San Antonio got it down to 2 in the final few minutes, but the Lakers pulled away and won that game. Still LeBron out, but that should be a good game later on at Staples Center between the Bulls and the Lakers tonight. And, of course, we have 49ers and Rams. That is the Monday night game in the NFL. Before we get out of here, BetMGM, you know who they are. They are the king of sports books and new players only. A great deal. Bet $10 to win $200 if your team scores a touchdown. That's right. Bet on any NFL money line. And if your team scores a touchdown, you'll receive an additional $200 in free bets. New players only, must be 21 years or older. Eligible in the following states: Arizona, New Jersey, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. only. Full terms and conditions apply. That is BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. I am Kevin Rogers. My thanks to Dave Sharapan for joining us, as he does every Monday on the show. And we'll be back tomorrow at noon Eastern to review the Monday night game. And we'll look ahead to, again, another busy day in basketball. I know we didn't hit a lot of college basketball today, but still plenty of games to handicap still this early in the season. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks again for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.